Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. Florida State Senate President Mike Haridopolos joins us now in our studio. He's seeking the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate seat now held by Florida Democrat Bill Nelson. Welcome to Newsmax TV.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, we're happy that you're here. Republicans see the Nelson seat as key in their pursuit to taking control of the Senate in 2012. Just talk to us about why you're running and what it is that you hope to accomplish in Washington.
Well, I'm running because I don't believe America's broken. I believe Washington, D.C. is broken. And unfortunately, Bill Nelson is part of the problem. As a Republican, we're only 4 seats short of majority. I can be one of those 4 seats to take back the majority, join Marco Rubio as a Florida United States Senator, and turn around America and make it where people like myself, people like my father, who's not even born in this country, can find opportunity once again.
Your biggest concerns right now, nationally?
My biggest concern is simple: debt. We can't afford the current government. They are spending us into oblivion. Our children are going to be in a bad situation in the future. Now, this generation before us was the greatest generation. Folks who went through the Great Depression, World War II, the Korean War, winning the Cold War. What are we going to say 40 years from now about our generation? We need to turn around America. We need to get out of debt so that our kids and our grandkids can find success. But if they're paralyzed by debt, they will not share the American dream.
What do you think differentiates you from Senator Nelson?
Well, it's pretty clear, our philosophy. Now, he talks like a conservative, he looks like a conservative, he dresses like a conservative, but he votes like a liberal. And let me give you 5 examples. We voted for Obamacare, stimulus, cap and trade or cap and tax, and he also voted for card check. And he has an F from the NRA. Those 5 votes clearly delineate the two of us. He's a person who believes in more government, more taxes, and my track record, this is my 11th year in the legislature, is one of a consistent conservative, pro-life, pro-gun, anti-tax, and most importantly, I know how to balance budgets.
Now, you touched on Obamacare. Florida has taken the lead in the state's lawsuit against Obamacare, which a federal judge has ruled as unconstitutional. President Obama is now backtracking on the implementation deadline on the mandate to buy insurance. What is your reaction to that?
Well, he's playing politics, much like Bill Clinton did after he lost in 1994. What we're doing in a proactive way is what I'm doing personally, and that is this. I personally filed a bill called Senate Joint Resolution 2, and it's the idea where the mandate will not apply to Florida. Like other states, we're going to take a proactive approach here. We want flexibility. We want to make it patient-centered, not government-centered, and so we'll be passing that bill in the first day of the legislative session, that we're going to empower the people of Florida once again, eliminate the mandate, because it's silly to me. If you can't afford insurance, then you'd have to pay a $400 fine. That's ridiculous, and that's why we're standing up for taxpayers.
So would that bill kill Obamacare in Florida?
Not the whole part. We can't take on the whole thing.
Okay.
That's what the lawsuit's for, which I fully support. But one portion of it, the mandate you talked about, the idea where you have to pay a fine if you don't buy insurance, will be eliminated from the books in Florida, and it will stand up in the Constitution of Florida, not just on the law books.
Okay. Well, in Wisconsin, public employee unions and Democrat lawmakers are in a standoff with Republican Governor Scott Walker over his proposals to curb collective bargaining and require that workers shoulder a larger share of pension and health care costs. Florida's Governor Rick Scott is calling for pension reform too. Do you think that we could see a similar standoff in Florida?
Well, I hope you don't have the travesty that's happening in Wisconsin. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that people are walking off the job, leaving the state. Do your job. But beyond that, let's look at the focus we have. There's 2 areas we have to reform, just like Chris Christie has done so well in New Jersey. First is pension reform. What we need to do is bring it in line with the private sector. What public officials need to recognize is that they're public servants first. They should not have a superior benefit package to the people who pay the taxes. So our pension plan will be similar to yours at any private business, where you have to make a contribution towards your retirement. And also it's important because in this generation, unlike my father's generation, is that we have a lot more jobs throughout our careers. So you can take that IRA or 401k, so to speak, with you from job to job. That encourages freedom. And God forbid something happens, if you're a husband or a wife, you can give that to your kids should something really bad happen. So that's about freedom, and we're going to make those changes. And if we do that in the right way, we empower the individual, but more importantly, we bend the cost curve, and the cost of operating the state government will go down, and thus we have more money for economic development, which creates jobs.
Okay, well, in about a week, the Florida legislature begins its next session, and up for debate is Governor Rick Scott's $66 billion spending plan, which slashes spending by $4.6 billion and also cuts 6,700 state jobs. In your view, is this plan good for Florida?
Well, absolutely. You have to balance the budget. And that's the rule number 1. So what the pledge we have made on the first day is that we're going to cut the spending to balance the budget. No ifs, ands, or buts, and no tax increase, nor fee increases. We can't afford tax increases or fee increases because we offer this stability. That will be the roadmap for jobs and opportunities. Again, we have to offer stability. When you have stability, you create the jobs because the businesses are going to go to a place where they know they can operate and not have to look around the corner and wonder if the government's going to tax them, fine them, add more fees, or make it easier for one Floridian to sue another. We're offering stability with a balanced budget, not raising taxes. If we do that, we're going to have a successful session.
Now, there is also a push in Florida by some for a smart cap on spending. Can you tell us, what that's about and what happens if Florida doesn't impose a smart cap?
Well, I'm the proud author of smart cap. It's an idea I've worked on for years. We finally have a conservative Senate to get it done under my leadership. And what it is very simple. Government spending should never grow faster than family income, period. Very logical. Because when we get out of this mess, after we let's just say, not just balance the budget, but more importantly, grow jobs, when we start to have a stronger economy again, this puts a restrictor on the amount of dollars that the state government can spend. And that way more money stays in the economy as opposed to going to the government like we saw just a few years ago when the economy was booming, government was spending too much. This smart cap will limit their spending so that more money stays in your pocket as opposed to being sent up to the government.
And without smart cap, what
Without
happens
smart
in
cap,
Florida?
they just start spending. Look, when you send the money to Tallahassee, let alone Washington, what do? They spend. Smart cap says you can't spend it. You can only spend so much in a given year, and then everything extra goes into a rainy day fund or is refunded back to the taxpayer. That's how you keep the economy going, not just in short stretches, but long stretches.
You would say potentially a fiscally dire situation in Florida without smart cap?
I think if we don't do it, we'll run right into the same mess we ran into in the mid-2000s. That what happened when the economy was good here in Florida? They overspent. They got generous, way too generous with pensions and health care benefits for government workers, public servants. This will restrict their ability to spend when times are good, and will allow us to think long-term instead of short-term.
Now, some states are in such bad shape that Jeb Bush and Newt Gingrich have suggested that they be allowed to declare bankruptcy and restructure their finances. Should states be allowed to go bust?
I think it's a mistake anytime you want to declare bankruptcy. What you need to do is get out of the mess you're in. And what we need to do is ask Washington, D.C. for flexibility on programs like Medicaid. That's really what's driving the spending on the state level. If we get flexibility on Medicaid, which in our state takes over $22 billion out of our $66 billion budget, $1 out of $3. If we gain that flexibility, and we also make the pension reforms we talked about earlier and health care reforms for government workers, we bend the cost curve and we don't have to get in those dire situations. Let's not play chicken as far as bankruptcy is concerned. I want to live within our means. We're going to do that in Florida, and other states need to fall in line. But what Washington needs to do is offer states flexibility on how they spend the money. Right now, it's too rigid a system.
A revised version of last year's controversial Senate Bill 6 is scheduled to reach the floor in the Florida Senate. It ties teacher pay to performance and abolishes tenure in the K-12 system. Last year, teachers mobilized strongly in opposition against this. How would you respond should teachers decide that they're going to walk out?
Well, Kathleen, first of all, an education is the ultimate civil right. We have a great education system. It's getting better in Florida. Jeb Bush, with his A+ plan, really turned the tables here. Last year was very controversial, as you know. My style is a lot different. We had over 3 committee meetings and a workshop to get all the opinions heard throughout the summer, fall, and into the winter and spring. It will be one of the first bills passed this year, which is a very simple idea. Merit pay. It works. Let's reward the best teachers so they don't leave the classroom. And the same idea with tenure. That time has passed. Now, if people protest, that's their constitutional right, but we will pass it. And if the Democrats walk out, so be it. We got the votes to pass it.
Okay. Florida Governor Rick Scott has been in office now for about 2 months, and he's made some tough decisions that have drawn criticism, including his proposal to drug test the unemployed, his plan to stop a prescription drug monitoring database, and now his rejection of $2.5 billion for high-speed rail. How do you think he's doing so far?
I think he's done an outstanding job. He's 2 months on the job, his first government job, so to speak. He's bringing the private sector to government, and we need that desperately. He knows what it's like to sign the front of the check, not just the back of the check, and that's important. But he is committed, along with myself, to balancing the budget, no new taxes. And we've said no to a very enticing idea, high-speed rail. Be $2.4 billion coming into Florida. But the truth is, it's borrowed money. We can't afford it. And for every dollar they spend in Washington, 41 cents of it is borrowed. At some point, people have to stand up and just say no if we're going to balance this budget in Washington long term. So Rick Scott and I have stood strong No high-speed rail because we can't afford it, and we want to send a message to Washington. Give us flexibility, and you all need to be more responsible with the money we do send you in the first place.
Florida State Senate President Mike Haridopolos, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Kathleen.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.